continue in our learning the laws regarding the biblically mandated, the Torah mandated holy days. So these are holidays that God explicitly commanded us in the Torah. That means the laws we're about to learn do not apply to Jewish holidays that God did not directly command us. Can anybody tell us some examples of holidays that the people of Israel observe, which God did not directly tell us to do?
Hanukkah
Yes, Hanukkah, that's one. Is there another?
and Purim.
Nachon, kol hakavod, that's right. All right, can someone else tell us any other special days that we do that Hashem, God, did not explicitly command us to do? We had one not too long ago.
Tisha B'Av.
Yefeh, kol hakavod. That's right, Tisha B'Av. So all of the Jewish fast days are what we call rabbinic. They are not directly commanded by God, except for Yom Kippurim, except for the Day of Atonement. All right. So these holidays, these laws that we're about to learn about holidays, do not apply to any of the days that our friends just mentioned. Okay, so this is important that you guys know. The only complete code or book of all the topics of Torah laws and rabbinic laws, the only complete organization of all of these halachot is the Mishneh Torah that was compiled by the Rambam. The overwhelming majority of it, it's not just his opinion. The majority of it, he actually compiled. That means he looked for the laws in different books and put them all together in one book and organized them. That is the Mishneh Torah of the Rambam, Maimonides. There's another book that's maybe even more widely known called Shulhan Arukh by Rabbi Yosef Karo. And that book, it's similar in purpose to the Mishneh Torah, but it's very different in many ways. Mishneh Torah is older, but also another major difference is that the Shulhan Arukh does not cover all topics of Jewish law. It only covers topics that Jews are able to do even when they are outside the land of Israel. Whereas, in contrast, the Mishneh Torah talks about all of Torah laws, even those that we do in the land of Israel, even the temple and wars and how we have courts, everything. Also, Shulhan Arukh brings many different opinions, contradictory opinions, and Shulhan Arukh brings many, many customs that are somewhat new. Mishneh Torah brings some customs, but very few. And most of the customs that the Mishneh Torah brings are older customs, very much older than what we'll normally find in more recent books. So anyway, if you want to learn all of the topics of halakha, even if you do not go 100% by the Mishneh Torah, the Mishneh Torah is the best way to get the full perspective of all of halakha. All right, and you can find it in more than one website on the internet. Very useful place you can find it is on Chabad's website, chabad.org. This is not an endorsement of all the teachings of Chabad, but they do have a lot of useful resources. So you would just go to the search bar, you type in Mishneh Torah, and you can find it. Here you find the list of all the books of Mishneh Torah. We are going to the book of times. Zmanim means times, appointed times, seasons, and that's what we call the holidays. We are going to Shevitat Yom Tov. Shevitat Yom Tov. Who can tell us what Shevitat means? What does Shevitat mean? Everybody should have a pen and paper so you can take notes. Even if you lose the paper, it's better to take the notes, even if you lose it, because that helps you remember. What does Shavita mean?
Yom Tov means good day.
Nachon, that's right, Nachon. And Yom
Jubilee
Tov,
Day?
go ahead, say that again. I missed what you said.
Jubilee?
Similar. It's actually similar. But I'm asking,
Seven.
that's also a very good guess. Both of the things that you guys have said so far are related to this word, but the literal meaning of it, it's from the same word as Shabbat.
Seventh
Shabbat,
day, like seventh good day.
well, Shabbat does not mean seven, although it's true that we call the seventh day Shabbat. So Shabbat does refer to the seventh day, but the word Shabbat does not mean seven. Also, this word does not mean seven, even though it looks similar to the word seven. But the spelling is very different. Seven has an ayin, the letter ayin, sheva. And this word has no ayin, and it has a tav. Tav is part of the word. So we're going to click on it. This is where we find the laws for the Torah mandated holidays. You can find a Mishneh Torah, Book of Times, Shevitat Yom Tov. Shevita is from the same word as Shabbat. Same word. It's not the same word, but it's the same root word. So Shabbat is a noun, and Shevita is a verb. It means the act of ceasing, which is really the act of not acting. The act of not doing something. So Shevitat means the act of not doing something on a Yom Tov. And what did we learn last time about this expression in Hebrew, Yom Tov? You guys do not be afraid to say the wrong thing, because everybody says the wrong thing sometimes. Just try. The very act of trying to remember helps us remember. Even if we don't remember perfectly, it helps us remember better the next time. Who can tell us something about this term, Yom Tov? Someone already mentioned one thing about it. What else do you guys remember about Yom Tov?
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom uvracha, אחי יקר. מה שלומך?
Yom Tov is a day when we celebrate Jewish Chagot or Hagim.
Hagim. Okay, very good. That's true. There's a problem with the word Hagim. The word Hag, it's from a Hebrew root word that means like a circle or a circuit. So like going around. And that's the reason why we call certain holidays Hag. It's also why they call in Islam going to Mecca, if you guys are familiar with Islam. They travel to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. They try to do this at least once in their life. And when they get there, they go to their holiest place in Islam and they go around it 7 times. They make a big circle around it. And they call that the Hajj. Same root word as the Hebrew word Hag. The problem is, in modern Hebrew, many people call all of the holidays Hag. Many people will even say Hag Sameach on Purim and on Hanukkah. So it's important that we know that people will use this word Hag and they will say Hag Sameach even on Purim and Hanukkah. And this word Hag, it's often translated as holiday, but that's a very simple translation. That's okay to translate it simply, but we need to understand, if we want to keep Torah, if we want to do God's will, we need to understand the difference. So although in modern Hebrew, people use the word Hag often in a very broad way, they apply it even to holidays like Purim and Hanukkah, which you guys correctly pointed out are not commandments from the Torah. They are not holidays that God commanded us. even though people call those holidays, Hanukkah and Purim, Hag, these are not Hagim according to the Torah. And even with the holidays that are commanded directly by God in the Torah, not all of them are called Hagim. So the word Hag, it's usually restricted in Jewish law. It's usually only used in reference to the pilgrimage holidays, to the holidays where the males of Israel, the Israelite men, are obligated by God to go to the temple 3 times a year. So an easy way you can remember this is Hajj in Islam. Hajj. So that's why, even though we are not followers of the Islamic world, but this can help you remember the more original use of the word Hajj. Remember that it has to do with pilgrimage. Okay? Cycle, an annual holiday and a pilgrimage. So our Hajj is on those holidays that God commanded us in the Torah to make a pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem. Who can tell us what holidays those are? What holidays did Hashem command us in his Torah that the men of Israel should make a pilgrimage to the temple, the chosen place? Go ahead.
Pesahh,
Yes, that's
Sukkoth,
one. Yefeh.
Pesahh, Sukkoth, the third one.
I'll give you a hint.
Uh,
Flames of fire descended on their heads, and they spoke many languages.
పెంతెకోస్తు పండుగని ఏం చెప్పాను నేను?
Yeah, so Pentecost.
Shavu'oth.
Pentecost in Hebrew is Shavu'oth.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys write this down if you did not already know on your pieces of paper. 3 Hagim in the Torah. They are Sukkoth, Pesach, and Shavu'oth. So we referred to Islam earlier, now we're going to refer to Christianity. So not only do Muslims have created their own Hajj, but Christians also have a Hajj. They just don't realize it. Because they try to celebrate Pentecost. And Pentecost is a Hajj or Hajj. So there we go. All right, so let's see where we picked up. Oh yeah, we were asking, what is Yom Tov? So Hajj, in the context of Jewish law, Hajj usually refers to the 3 pilgrimage festivals, Sukkoth, Pesach, and Shavu'oth. Now the word Yom Tov, on the other hand, usually refers to any holiday that God commanded in the Torah, even if it's not a pilgrimage holiday. That's what we call Yom Tov. So that would also include Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement. That would also include Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, the Day of Blasting, the Jewish New Year of Years. Excuse me, got some hiccups here. All right, so I want someone to summarize for us. Tell us the difference between Yom Tov and Hajj. Who can tell us the difference between the Hebrew word Yom Tov and the Hebrew word Hajj? How do we use
Hajj is a holiday not used in normal holidays.
Can you say that again? I didn't understand clearly. Not used in what?
Hajj word we not use in normal holidays.
Ah, okay. So what kind of holiday is Hajj used in reference to?
Hashem given holidays. The
Yes.
3 festivals we use Hajj.
Where there's a command for the men to make a pilgrimage, to travel to the temple. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And now, what is Yom Tov?
When any festival comes comes on Shabbat, we say Yom Tov.
Even if it's in the middle of the week, but we treat it like it's a type of Shabbat, even if it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Very good. And also, these are holidays only that are the holidays that God commanded us in the Torah. So Purim and Hanukkah, they are not what we call Yom Tov. And Purim and Hanukkah are not what we call Hag in Jewish law. Even though you might encounter Jews who call Hanukkah and Purim Hag, this is a mistake. Just that you guys know. Not everything that is popular in the Jewish world is correct. And even though it's a popular mistake, it is actually a mistake that Jewish leaders in all the major Jewish communities agree is a mistake. So although there are differences among Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Yemenites, we have many differences, but we all agree that this calling Hanukkah and Purim Hag is a mistake. All right. Would someone summarize that in Telugu? The difference between Hag and Yom Tov. Someone please summarize that in Telugu.
మనం హాగ్ సమయ అని చెప్తాం కదా పండగలప్పుడు. ఈ హాగ్ సమయ అని చెప్పాలంటే హాగ్ సమయ అని మనము దేవుడు హషేం ఇచ్చిన పండగలకు మాత్రమే హాగ్ సమయ అని చెప్పాలి. అవి పస్కా, పూరిము, ఇంకొకటి పనల పండగ అప్పుడు. అట్లాగే పూరింకి కానీ లేకపోతే హనుకాకి కానీ మనం హాగ్ సమయాన్ని చెప్పకూడదు. ఓకే.
All right, thank you.
Mishneh.
It is kulasot. Can someone summarize it in Tamil, if there is anyone here?
No Tamil.
No Tamil
people.
Hindi?
No.
Can someone do in Hindi, Urdu?
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom uvracha. Ma shlomech. How are you?
Fine. Your brother is there. He will translate in Urdu.
Be'ezrat Hashem. Efo ata, achi? Yusuf. Maybe they are busy. Okay, let's continue. So we learned last week that one of the differences between a regular Shabbat that comes every week, as opposed to Yom Tov, a biblical holiday that might fall in the middle of the week, is that although the same 39 actions are forbidden on both of these kinds of days, both on a regular Shabbat and a Shavitat Yom Tov, there's a difference in punishment. If one does one of the 39 forbidden actions, the punishment is different. And we also learned that when a Yom Tov falls in the middle of the week, not on the regular 7th day Shabbat, that although we are not allowed to do the 39 forbidden actions, halakha, however, you are allowed to do a forbidden action on a Yom Tov if it's necessary to prepare fresh food on the Yom Tov. Okay? So on a regular Shabbat, we are not, a regular weekly Shabbat, every 7th day of the week, we are not allowed to do one of the 39 forbidden actions in order to make food on Shabbat, on the weekly Shabbat. But you can do one of the 39 forbidden actions, you're allowed to, on a Yom Tov, if it's necessary to make food on the day of Yom Tov itself. And this includes transferring fire. If you have a flame, you can transfer that flame to another place, to a stove or something else, and cook with fire on a Yom Tov. But we are not allowed to do this on a regular weekday Shabbat, weekly Shabbat. And if Yom Tov, let's say Passover, the first day of Passover, or Shavu'oth, Pentecost, if one of those Yom Tovs falls on the 7th day Shabbat, that comes every week, then we have to be strict like a normal weekly Shabbat. I would like somebody to explain that in their own words. Can someone summarize that in their own words, please?
Yes, I will. Shall I?
Yes, please.
जैसे कि बताया गया है कि जब सबत के दिन हमें कुछ मिसवोत है जिनको हमें सख्ती से पालन करना है, जैसे कि हमें जब खाना बनाने का वक्त तो हमें सबत के दिन हम उसे गैस को ऑन नहीं करेंगे और ना ही हम जो कैंडल जलाते हैं उसमें से हम वो आग लेके गैस हम नहीं जला सकते हैं। पर अगर जो त्योहार जैसे पेसाख आ गया, शवोत आ गया, उस दौरान हम यो क्या नाम है गैस वगैरह खाना वगैरह बना सकते हैं, हम जला सकते हैं आग को। पर अगर ये जो पेसाख है वो वीकली शबात के समय आता है तो हमें वो सख्ती से मानना है कि हम गैस लाइट ऑन नहीं करेंगे, आग नहीं जलाएंगे। Okay, Rabbi.
All right, thank you. All right, now I'm just going to read this little paragraph here. It says, whenever an action, an activity is necessary for making food, for example, killing an animal, baking, like cooking, kneading, that's, mixing flour with water to create dough if you want to make bread, anything like this, it's allowed to do the normally forbidden action. It's allowed because this is necessary for making food. But if the forbidden action is not necessary for making food, then we're not allowed to do that on the Yom Tov, such as writing or sewing, weaving, building things. And the slaughter is permitted on Yom Tov, and cooking is permitted, it's allowed on Yom Tov, and anything similar to it, it's allowed if it's necessary for making food. But this does not mean that we can do these things on Yom Tov just because we want to do it and not in order to make food. So, like, although you can kill a goat to cook meat on Yom Tov, this does not mean we can just go and kill a goat. Not to be mean, I'm not saying you're being mean to the goat, but perhaps the goat is suffering or something like that, and you want to make it stop yelling, it's annoying you or something like this. I don't know. I'm just giving an example. If the goat keeps going meh and is driving you nuts and you want to kill it, that's not a reason that's allowed to kill it on Yom Tov. You need to kill it if you want to eat it on Yom Tov. Okay, let's continue. Who would like to read halakha number 5? Halakha number 5.
Whenever it is possible to perform a labor on the day prior to the holiday without causing any loss or inequality, our leges forbid performing such a labor on the holiday itself, even if it is performed for the sake of the preparation of food. Why was this forbidden? This was a decree instituted lest a person leave for the holiday all the labors that he could have performed for the holiday and thus spend the entire holiday performing those labors. Thus he will be prevented from rejoicing on the holidays and did not have the opportunity to take pleasure in eating and drinking.
All right. So this is a very good example how many of the rabbinic laws were instituted not in order to make our life difficult, but in order to make sure that we are enjoying God's special day that God gave us. Can someone summarize what she just read for us in your own words? Would someone like to summarize, to say it in less words? Summarize the key points in this halakha. I'm going to have to choose somebody. Priya. Priya.
Once you explain.
I didn't hear what you said.
Explain.
You want me to explain?
Mm.
Oh, I was offering an invitation for someone else to explain. Okay, I will summarize. But I want someone to listen so that someone can translate it to Telugu.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything we read before about it being allowed to cook on Yom Tov, that is allowed if for some reason it was not possible to prepare before Yom Tov. Okay?
Okay.
Or maybe it would be possible to prepare it before Yom Tov, but if you did prepare it before Yom Tov, maybe the food would not be as delicious, for example. Some foods do not taste as good the next day. Some foods taste better the next day, but some taste better on the day it's made. So that has to do with adequacy and inadequacy. So if it tastes better on the day that it's made, then if you made that food before the Yom Tov, it would be less than good on the Yom Tov itself. And the reason for all of these things is because our sages, our ancient rabbis, Hazal, they wanted to make sure that we enjoy the holiday and we do not leave all of the work for preparing on the holiday to do it on the holiday itself. That's the whole reason. Can someone summarize this in their own words? It does not have to
Rabbi,
be 100%. Go ahead. Yes, please.
I want
పండగల్లో
to ask something.
ओके ओके आप बोलिए ना
आप बोलिए सिस्टर, मैंने कुछ पूछना बाद में पूछ लूंगी.
ఈ హషేమ్ ఇచ్చిన పండగల్లో కొన్ని నిషేధించబడ్డాయి. అవి ఏంటంటే స్లాటర్ చేయటం, అంటే పేక కోసి, లేకపోతే అంటే నిషేధం కాదు, మనకి అవి చెయ్యకూడదు. ఆ పేక కోసి అవి అల్లాడుతా ఉండి అది మనం వండుకొని తినకూడదు అనేది ఒక ఇది అన్నమాట. దానికి ముందే చేసుకుంటే ఇబ్బంది లేదు. ఆ పండుగల్లో అట్లా చేయకోకుండా మనకు కావాల్సిన వంటలు అయితే చేసుకోవచ్చు. అది వంటలు కాకుండా మనము జీవనోపాధికి సంబంధించిన పని చేయకోకుండా వంటలు చేసుకోవచ్చు. అలాగని మొత్తం దేవుడిచ్చిన సెలవు దినాన్ని ఆ పని ఈ పని చేసుకుంటా టైం వేస్ట్ చేసుకోకుండా దానికి ముందుగానే కొంచెం ప్రిపేర్ చేసుకొని మరుసటి రోజుకి బాగుంటాయి అనుకునే వంటలు వండుకొని మనము ఆ హాలిడేని ఎంజాయ్ చేయొచ్చు. Tiscula Misl.
Tiscula Asod. All right, let's read halakha 6.
Shall I read?
Please, b'chavod. Go right ahead.
For this very reason, our sages didn't forbid transforming articles on holiday, although the transfer of all articles is a task that could be performed before the holiday. Why was this not forbidden? To increase our festive joy, so that a person can send and bring anything he desires, and thus fulfill his wants, and not to feel like someone whose hands are tied. With regard to other labors that are possible to be performed on the day before the holiday.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Tizkul mitzvot.
Tizkul asod.
All right. So this is one other halakha. Some people consider it, well, it's widely considered a halakha. This is one action that's forbidden on Shabbat in a place that has no eruv, but it's allowed on a Yom Tov. You don't have to worry about carrying and transferring on Yom Tov. You can carry whatever you want, wherever you want. All right. Someone read halakha number 7, please.
What is implied on a holiday? We do not harvest, thresh, winnow, separate, or grind grain, nor do we shift flour. For all these and any similar activities can be performed on the day prior to the holiday without causing any loss of inequality.
All right. So even though these are normally forbidden actions that regard cooking, but because there's no reason that you can't do it before the holidays, so these are not allowed. For example, yes, maybe bread tastes better on the day that you make it. But if you harvest the grains many days before, that does not really change the quality of the bread. The quality of the bread is more affected by when you add water to the flour and then mix the flour and then bake it. That really affects the quality of the bread. But if you harvest the plants before the holiday, that will not affect, harvesting it, taking it out of the field and everything. That won't make the bread any less good. All right, so the halakha requires some degree of honesty, that we be honest with ourselves, whether we really need to do the action on the holiday itself or if we could do it beforehand. All right, somebody read this one.
We may, however, need to slaughter and cook on a holiday, since if these activities had been performed on the previous day, the taste would be adversely affected. For warm bread or food that is cooked today does not taste the same as bread or food that was cooked the day before. Similarly, meat that is slaughtered today does not taste the same as meat slaughtered on the previous day. The same rules apply in all analogous situations.
All right, toda rabba. Thank you very much. Would someone like to read the next paragraph?
Shall I?
B'chavod.
Similarly, when it would be detrimental for subsidiary activities involved in the preparation of food to be performed on the day before the holiday, example, grinding spices and the like, they may be performed on the holiday.
Very good. This was necessary to add because in a previous halakha, it said grinding, for example, you should not do. But that's talking more about grinding grains. You could do that on a previous day and it wouldn't affect the quality of the bread. But grinding spices, the spices will be much stronger if you grind it on the same day that you cook it. So that's allowed. Again, it's just an example where the person needs to be honest with themselves. Would this really be better if I did it today? Or could I do it tomorrow and it still be just as good? And yeah, I'm sure for some types of foods, there might be disagreement about it. In those cases, we should be lenient where we know it's regarding a rabbinic prohibition, and we should be strict where it's regarding a Torah prohibition. Okay, who would like to read halakha number 9?
May I read again?
Oh, please,
Bye.
bevakasha.
It is forbidden to bake or cook for on a holiday that one intends eat during the week, because work necessary for the preparation of food was permitted, so only so that pleasure could be derived from it on a holiday. If, however, one cooks food to be eaten on the holiday and there is food left over, the remainder may be eaten during the week.
Beautiful. Can you
Thank you.
translate this to Telugu, bevakasha, please? And you can summarize it in English first if you want to make sure that you understand completely. Would someone like to summarize halakha number 9?
సెలవు దినాలు అంటే ఈ ఇచ్చిన కొన్ని పండుగల్లో వంట చేయటం కూడా నిషేధించబడింది. వంట చేయటం బ్రదర్,
Yes, ma'am.
it is forbidden to bake or cook food on a holidays. Which holidays?
All of these halakhot, all of these laws are talking about the holidays that are commanded in the Torah. So
Commanded in the Torah means the 3 holidays.
not only the 3. So the 3 holidays, you're talking about Shavu'oth, Pesahh, and Sukkoth, right? Okay, so those 3 holidays are included. This is talking about those 3 holidays, but not only those holidays. So those 3 holidays, Shavu'oth, Pesach, Sukkot, they are called Hagim, Hag. They are also called Yom Tov. But there are other holidays that these laws are also talking about, other holidays which are not called Hagim, but are also called Yom Tov. So that is like not Yom Kippur. We don't eat on Yom Kippur.
Yes.
But the laws in general in this book also include Yom Kippur. But these laws also include Rosh Hashanah, and they include, there are 7 holidays. What are the other holidays? Rosh Hashanah 3, 4, 5. I feel like one is slipping my mind. Well, I can't recall.
Hanukkah?
No, not Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not commanded in the Torah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And no problem. But it's always good that we remember these differences. So all of these laws that we're talking about only regard the holidays that God commanded in the Torah. Not only Passover, Sukkot, and Shavu'oth, Pentecost, but also Rosh Hashanah, and also Yom Kippur, except for the eating. We're not supposed to eat on Yom Kippur.
Okay.
All right. Now, this halakha is saying you're allowed to cook on these holidays, but we're only allowed to cook on these holidays for food that is intended to be eaten on that holiday. We should not intentionally cook on purpose for the whole week after the holiday, right? So if today is Passover, the first day of Passover, I can cook on that day, but I'm not allowed to cook on purpose to prepare more food than I need for that day. I shouldn't cook on Passover food for the next 3 weeks or for the next 2 weeks. I should only cook with intention to make food for that holiday. And if, this is if, conditional, if there happens to be more food than we needed, then it's okay to eat that food after the holiday as well. But we should not do it on purpose. If anyone has a question, please let us know.
If we cook our regular food,
Ask again the whole question.
what about our regular food?
You can cook any kind of food on a holiday other than the normal Shabbat that comes every week. Other than that Shabbat, you can cook whatever food you need, even your regular food, on a holiday, on the first day of Passover, on Rosh Hashanah, on Sukkoth. You can cook your regular food as long as you intend to eat that food on the holiday.
It means we don't do a great meal. We don't cook a great meal on the festivals.
You can cook a great meal on the festival, but you should not cook a great meal on the festival.
On the first day.
You can cook on the first day also, but you should not do it with intention that you will eat that food for the next week, for the full week ahead. Let's imagine,
Like kol hamod.
let's imagine that today is Passover. Today is the first day of Passover. Let's imagine that. I can cook as big a meal as I want. It's totally acceptable. But if I do this, I must have the intention that I want to eat this food today, not tomorrow and not the next day. I have to plan to eat this food today. I don't have to eat it all by myself. I could plan that I will eat it with my family and my friends. But if I make this big meal, the intention, the purpose is that we eat it today on the holiday.
Okay.
Can you say it in your own words?
Rabbi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can I explain it?
Yes, please. First in English.
It is told that we can cook food for the holidays, but we haven't to cook more than a family. If we have 2 or 3 family gathering together, and we are making 10 kgs of rice, 10 kgs of chicken, vegetables, it will be more than that. A person will eat only less, how much he prefers. That is the reason. Or if the food will left, we have to eat for 1 week or 2 weeks also. It will be not good for us. Shall I explain in Hindi? Or Jesse?
Okay, so
Yes.
we can cook a large amount of food on the holiday, and if any food is left over the next day, it's allowed to eat it. It's not a problem to eat it the next day. If I cooked on the first day of Passover and I made too much food, it's not a problem if you want to eat it the next week, for the next 10 days or 20 days. That's not a problem. The problem is if
it will be...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It will spoil now.
Oh, yeah. That's
the food will spoil.
Of course, but that's not the problem. If it's spoiling, I mean, that is a problem, but that's not breaking the law. The problem with the law is that when we cook on a holiday, we should not cook more than is necessary on purpose,
Yeah.
right? We should not cook more than we need for that day on purpose. But if we did cook more than is necessary, then it's okay to eat it after the holiday.
But don't reserve
Okay.
it long time. I mean, see, actually, our homes we are making for 15 days or 1 month, 2 months food, something reserving. Don't
Mhm.
reserve it. That's right, sir?
Yes, yes. Don't cook more than is necessary
Yes, sir.
for,
Yes, sir.
for the holiday. But if you did on accident, you did not break a law.
Yes, sir.
If you cooked more than necessary on the holiday, it is okay to eat it after the holiday, to eat the extra food. It's okay.
But not for months, not for a month, 1 month, 2 months. We are reserving food. Actually,
I mean,
we are
if you're
preparing food
reserving
for.
food from the holiday, it sounds like it's on purpose, and that's a problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, I guess it's possible, but I don't think someone's going to do that on accident. That sounds like it's on purpose. Right? You don't accidentally cook food for a month.
Yeah.
This would be a trick. Okay, somebody
We
can
can
translate. Go ahead.
we can do one thing also. If we have cooked large amount of food, we can distribute it to the poor
Absolutely.
also.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
would be beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the main point of these laws is that we should not cook more than is necessary on the holiday on purpose. But if you did on accident, this is okay and you can eat it however long you want to eat it. And if you want to give it to the poor, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's never good to let food waste. That's never good. To let food spoil. Okay, so we are stopping at 10. Let's go to
Rabbi, can I ask you one question?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're talking about Hagim,
Yes.
the pilgrimage festival.
Yes, sir.
So we're not allowed to offer any food to any Gentiles, right?
There is a halakha that's like that, but it's not exactly like that. You can offer food to a non-Israelite. The question has to do with preparing food for a non-Israelite. And there's also some debate about different types of non-Israelites, because non-Jews, non-Israelites, there are different types. They're not all the same. So there's a question whether it's a non-Israelite who doesn't care about Torah, or is it a non-Israelite who maybe he wants to become Jewish, but for some reason the leaders have not made sure that he became Jewish already. These are different questions. But it has to do with the preparing the food. And we will get to those laws probably next week. Beseder?
Yeah.
Beseder.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes, sir. Okay. We are going to look at Shema. And everybody see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would like to read the first, oops, who would like to read the first 3 words of the Shema?
Shema Israel, Adonai.
Adonai.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. What does Shema mean? If you guys have a prayer book and you have a pencil would be very good. When we examine the prayer book, you can write the meanings of the words near the word with a pencil. And then after you learn the word, you can erase what you wrote. Who can tell us what Shema means? What does Shema?
Shema means listen.
Yes, it's a command form of the word listen. It's the command. Yisrael. Israel. Always make sure you pronounce it in 3 parts.
Yeah.
Many Americans
Israel.
say Israel. That's like 2 parts. Yisrael, but it's 3. Yisrael. Israel.
Ra, it's Ra ya Ra. It's
Okay,
Israel.
so in modern Hebrew, they normally pronounce it Ra, and in classical Hebrew, it's Ah. The T, you see the vowel that looks like the letter T?
Yeah.
That makes an ah sound in classical Hebrew, ancient Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, they pronounce it ah, Yisra. Everybody understands both ways to pronounce it. Yisrael. Who can tell us what the word Israel means?
People of Israel.
Yes, that's the basic plain meaning of the word. That's correct. What does the name Israel mean?
Wrestle with God.
Yes, very good. So it says in the book of Genesis that after Yaakov, Jacob, the son of Isaac,
Of Israel.
he had a experience in the night. Some people say it physically happened. Some people say it was in his mind in a dream. It doesn't matter. Either way, this was his experience. He struggled with an agent of God, some messenger of God. And so because he struggled with this messenger of God, he was given a name, one who struggles with God. That's what Israel means. If someone is very familiar with Hebrew, you can look at this name and you can see that it could also be read in a few other ways. Who remembers what the name Sarah means? Sarah. Sarah, the wife of Abraham. Abraham's wife, Sarah. What does Sarah mean?
Mother of nations.
Mother of nations.
Okay, so you guys are thinking of Abraham, father of nations, father of
Yeah,
many.
father
Yeah.
of nations.
Yeah. So what does Sarah mean?
Mother of nations.
I like that, but that's not what it means. That's so funny.
I know, but I'm just
It's
not in my mind right now. Sorry.
Okay. So Sarah means a female ruler, one who rules, like an officer, but female. Does
Indian.
anybody,
Princess.
yeah, it's almost like Raja.
Yes, he's Raja, ruler.
Yes.
Rani.
So Sarah
Rani.
is the female form of it. Okay, has anybody heard of a famous prophecy that Christians love to use in the book of Isaiah? Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the rulership shall be on his shoulders, and he will be called da 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 da. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very
course.
famous, very famous.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are not going to examine that verse in detail, but I can tell you that the verse can be translated in some different ways and more accurate ways if you look at the cantillation marks, the musical notes of the book. The way Christians translate it, ignore the musical notation of the text, and they also change the vowels from a key word in the verse. But that's a different topic. When it says Prince of Peace, it does not mean prince in the modern English word son of a king. The word there that they translate as prince is Sar. Sar is the male form of Sarah. Right? Sarah means female ruler. Sar is a male ruler. So it means prince in the sense of like a principal, a top high-ranking officer. And that word is Sar. We see that word in the name Israel, Yisra. So not only does it mean struggle with God, but you can also read it as he shall rule with God. God will make him rule. He will have authority with God. He will have power with God. Israel.
MashaAllah.
Wonderful
MashaAllah.
meaning. Wonderful meaning. Baruch Hashem.
So we learn from the name Israel that it is not bad to struggle with God. This is honesty. People who have questions about God, it's not necessarily bad, as long as we are yeshurun. Who has heard the term yeshurun? Jeshurun. Jeshurun. This is another name for Israel. And it's also playing with these words. Yisra, Yeshur, right? So it can mean he who struggled with God. It can also mean he who is righteous or honest with God. Yashar means upright, righteous, honest. Yashar. It is okay to struggle with God. You have questions, it's normal. As long as we are yashar, as long as we are honest. So you can read Shema Israel on the simple level, the plain meaning. God is commanding the people of Israel, whoever they are in the nation of Israel. On a deeper level, you can read it that God is saying, whoever struggles with God, whoever is Israel, whoever is has honest struggling with God, you should listen wherever you are in the world. Maybe you are not a part of the people of Israel as a nation, but you're Israel, you are struggling with God. You have questions, but you're honest with these questions. God is calling them and telling them, come to Israel. You are Israel. But you should listen and know Adonai, the eternal God, the God who has no body, no shape, no image, the God who is so great that no mind can imagine how great he is. He is our venerable authority. He is the authority over us. He is the one alone that we should worship. The eternal, the transcendent one. He is one. So you can read it in at least two ways. You can read it in the simple way. Everybody who's the nation of Israel, God's talking to you. But you could also read it as the person who is outside of Israel, but their intention, their heart, means that they should join Israel. So God is also calling them. Recognize that you are also Israel, and you should join Israel, and you should make Adonai your God. And in doing this, you proclaim that Hashem is Ahad, he is one. Okay, so let's all say together, Shema Yisrael. Break each word into parts. Shema Yisrael. Yisrael.
Israel.
Ma Israel.
Israel.
Beautiful. All right, so we want to always hear each part of the word. Yisrael. Yes, so never Israel, but Israel. Adonai.
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 Elohenu. Elohenu.
Elohenu.
Yes, Elohenu. Elohenu.
Elohenu.
That's it. Perfect. Adonai.
Adonai.
All right, and we always want to be careful to not say what many American Jews say. They try to read Hebrew too quickly and they cut out parts of the word. Many people will say Adonai, Adonai, instead of Adonai, Adonai.
Adonai.
Right? If you take fingers, put up one finger for each part of the word. Adonai. How many parts are there? How many parts of the word? Adonai.
4.
The.
Yeah.
The
Do,
noi.
no, no.
Three.
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 The noi.
Adonai. Yeah, Adonai.
All right. How many parts are in Elohenu? Elohenu. Elohenu.
4 parts.
4.
Nachon. That's right. Nachon.
Nachon.
How many parts are in Israel?
3.
Isra-
3.
Israel.
Yafeh.
parts.
Anytime you learn a new word, think about how many parts is in this word. And if you notice that you said less than that number when you're reading quickly, you're probably reading too fast. This is a good rule to help us read at a good speed. If we read so fast that we are destroying a part of the word, then we need to slow down. All right. One more time. Adonai.
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 Ehad. Ehad.
Ehad.
Ehad.
Beautiful. All right. Let's read. Who would like to read this section in Hebrew?
Adonai Elohecha.
Beautiful. Okay, we can read it all together. Wa'ahavta. Wa'ahavta.
Wa'ahavta.
Eth.
Eth.
Adonai.
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 Elohecha.
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 Beautiful. Wa'ahavta eth Adonai Elohecha.
Adonai Elohecha.
Okay, and if we can, we want to pronounce this cha at the end as a cha. It's the most beautiful sound of any language on earth. Say yes if you think that's the most beautiful sound in a language. Exactly.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
no! Oh no! It is not. It's the worst sound. Also in Hebrew, it's bad because there's another letter in Hebrew, the letter het. And in modern Hebrew, most people pronounce the letter het. In
Yes.
ahov, they pronounce het.
Ehad.
They pronounce het the same as they pronounce chaf. And that what happens is that makes twice as many chas in Hebrew. So now Hebrew sounds like it has more cha than it should have. So now when people hear Hebrew, half of what they hear is, oh, it's terrible. So if we can, we want to try to pronounce het as more soft and cha is hard. Remember, het is softer, it's more like H, and cha is harder. Okie dokie.
I
Okay.
like her.
You like cha? You are very special, man.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless your soul.
Thank you.
Okay, who can tell us what ahavta means? What does what ahavta mean? What ahavta? What does what ahavta mean?
Love?
Yes, the root word is love. Ahav.
How?
Ahav. The noun love in Hebrew is ahava. If you want to write down the word for love in Hebrew, it is ahava. Ahava. That is love. Ahava. Now, this is not the noun. This is the verb, the action. That's why it sounds a little different. Ahava is the concept, the noun, love, and ahavta is a verb, to love. So if you take the root word for love and you add You add a ta to the end of it. Ta means you did this in the past. So I want everybody to write down, if you add a ta to the end of a word in Hebrew, ta should be translated as you in the past. You did whatever this word is. This word is love. Ta at the end of it means they loved in the past. So you loved. That's how you translate ahavta. You loved. You loved. Someone tell me, what does a word mean when you add ta to the end of it? If you add ta to the end of a word in Hebrew, what does the ta do to the word?
You did.
Good. Let's see an example here. Here's one. Ukshartam. So Hebrew is all about root words. Every word in Hebrew, let's say 99% of words in Hebrew, they have three main letters that are the basis of that word, the root of that word, the essence of that word. Three main letters. You always want to try to identify those three main letters. And the way we find them is by remembering that Hebrew is built on two major concepts: the three main letters, and then the extra letters that get added at the end and at the beginning. The three main letters, the root word, it can be any kind of letter, all right? Those three letters could be almost anything. But the letters that get added at the end or at the beginning, they are a very small number of letters. So I want you guys to write down on your paper, you're taking notes. I want you to write down some examples of very common letters that get added to the root word. So there are two types of letters that get added to root words. For example, the root word in the first word of the Shema is ahav, love. And then we added the ta at the end, which means they did the action in the past, and the one doing the action is you. You loved. We know that because it's a ta at the end. So I want you to write two lists. You're going to have a list on the right. You can put prefixes. Prefixes means letters that are added at the beginning of the word. And now on the left side, I want you to write suffixes. Suffixes are letters added at the end of a word. Under the list for prefixes, letters added at the beginning of a word, I want you to write the letter Vav. I'm highlighting Vav right here. Vav is very often added at the beginning of a word. Vav. You can also add the letter Bet. Bet is very often added at the beginning of words. He is very often added at the beginning of words. So far you need to write on the right-hand side of your list, under prefixes, letters added at the beginning of words. You need to add Vav, Bet, He. Can anybody tell me another letter that's often added at the beginning of words?
Shin.
Shin, the letter Shin. Did somebody say shin?
Yes.
That's correct. Shin is very often added to the beginning of a word. Another letter that's often added at the beginning of a word is
Lamed.
Yes, kol hakavod. Lamed. There are other letters that get added at the beginning of words, but we will talk about those another time. Right now, I just want you to be aware of these letters. You don't need to know exactly what they mean. Just know that they are often added to the beginning of a root word. Now, let's look at your list on the left-hand side of your notes. Someone tell me a letter that gets added at the end of a root word. They're not always added. Sometimes they're added. What is a letter that is often added at the end of a root word? What we call suffixes in English. Suffixes.
The tav.
Yes, tav is often added at the end of words. What's another letter?
He.
Come again?
He.
The letter hey is a suffix. I would say it's not as often, but it is one of them. So you can add that. What's another suffix? Another letter that's added. When we add these letters to the root word, it changes the meaning a little bit. What is something else that gets added? Let's look at the Shema right here. There are many suffixes here. What is a suffix that appears many times here? It's added to the end of many words here.
Mim.
Yes, mim is one. Mim. So everybody add a mim. Sometimes mim is added to a root word.
Kaf Sofit.
Yes, kaf. That's the most common here in this first paragraph of the Shema. Kaf. Okay, so that's enough for now. There are others. We'll add one more, tav. Tav gets added at the end of root words. So there are others, but we're going to stop with this amount. I want everybody to try to learn these letters. You do not need to know exactly what they all mean. Just know that they are often letters that get added at the end of words and at the beginning of words. And because they are added, what that means is you can take them away. And if you take them away, that will help you identify the basic meaning of the word. For example, here we have uqshartam. You know that vav's often added at the beginning of a word. Tav and mim are often added at the end. So that helps you identify that the root here is qshar, pesher. Pesher means to tie. So now I know this uqshartam has something to do with tying. U means and. Ta means you did this action in the past. So qsharta means you tied. Sharta means you tied. In biblical Hebrew, u often reverses the time that the action occurred. So ksharta means you tied in the past. The u reverses it and makes it you will tie. Uksharta, and you will tie, or you shall tie. The am means them. It's telling you what you are tying. Ukshartam, and you shall tie, them. What ahavta? Vav is very often a prefix. Ta is often a suffix, often added at the end. That helps us identify the root. Love. Love what? Who's doing the action? Ta. The answer is ta. Ta means you did the action in the past. We know it's the past because the ta is added at the end of the root. And then this beautiful letter here just comes and undoes everything and makes it reversed. So ahavta means you did it in the past. You loved in the past. You loved. And the vav's reversing it. So the reversal of you loved is you shall love. You shall love. Who will you love? At Adonai. You shall love Adonai, the eternal. Okay, one last time. I want somebody to read what letters you added under your list for prefixes. Letters that get added to root words. Someone tell me what you wrote down. What letters you wrote down.
Lamed, prefix.
Yefeh. Very nice. You only wrote down Lamed? Did you write down any other letters?
Wow,
Yefeh. Very good.
Bet,
Nachon. That's right. Nachon.
He,
Yefeh. That's right.
Narshin.
And Shin. Shin is not it's not added as a prefix in this paragraph, but it is a very common prefix, especially in modern Hebrew. Very common. Okay. Can someone else tell me what letters you added as a suffix? And please write these down as you hear them. This is your last chance for this lesson. What are some suffixes added at the end of words?
First suffix, mim.
Yafeh. Mim. Again,
Wow,
mem is not a suffix. Actually, it is a suffix here. Here and here. Yes. Go ahead.
Tau,
Nachon. Sometimes tav is a suffix.
Chav Sofit,
Oh, yeah. That one's very important. It's so important, we should learn what it does today. Does anyone know what the chaf added at the end of a word does? It's everywhere. If you only learn one thing today in Hebrew, it should be what chaf does at the end of a word, because you see it everywhere. So next time you pray in Hebrew, you should think about what it means. What does chaf mean when it's added at the end of a word?
Your.
Yes. So chaf is very frequently added to words in Hebrew. And when it's added to words, it can mean one of two things. It can mean your. When does cha mean your? Cha means your when it's added to a noun, to an object, to a thing, to something that you could think of specifically. An object, a person, or a place, or a thing. That's when it means your. For example, levavcha. Levav is not an action, it's a thing, right? Levav means heart. Heart is a noun. It's an act. It's not an action. It's a noun. Levav. It's a thing. So if you add chaf to it, it means your heart. But we have some verbs. We have some actions. I'm looking for an example. Okay, here we have one. Laqum. Qum means to get up, to rise, to stand up. That's an action. So when you add cha to it, because it's not a noun, it's an action. When you add cha to the action, it does not mean your, it means you. You get up. Technically, this is being used like a noun. So when you're at your arising, but that's not how people normally speak in English. If you translate it as a verb, then cha should be translated as you. Okay, so someone tell me, what are the two things that cha means when it's at the end of a word? Cha can be translated as two different things at the end of a word.
One is you.
Good. And the other? You and your. You and your. Cha means you and your. Cha, added at the end of a word, means your when it's added to a noun. A noun is a person, place, or a thing. Like levavcha, your heart. Nafshecha, your soul. These are not actions, they are things. And cha means you when it's added to an action, to a verb. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this before we wrap up our lesson?
Low.
Very nice. All right. So we're going to end by reading one of the 613 mitzvot. You can find it in Sefer HaMitzvot, the book of the commandments, the list of the 613 commandments. All right. We read this last time, that the 8th positive commandment, proactive commandment, mitzvah aseh, is that we should do our best to act as God acts. If God is merciful, we should be merciful. The same way that God is righteous, we should strive to be righteous. We should try to be righteous. God is kind, we should be kind. God is fair, we should be fair. God is patient, so we should try to be patient. And this is what it means to walk after God. We don't literally walk after God because God is not a body. God doesn't have legs like a human. God doesn't have any kind of legs. Anything like that is only symbolic when we talk about God. So how do we walk after God? It's not a literal footsteps in the sand. It's figurative, it's symbolic. And the way we symbolically follow God is by following after his attributes. Lining up our life with the way that God expresses himself in creation. All right, let's read the next of the mitzvot. Okay, who would like to read Mitzvah Aseh, the 9th positive commandment? Let's get someone to read just these first two sections.
Shall I read?
Bevakasha.
The 9th mitzvah is that we are commanded to sanctify God's name, sanctify God's name,
Sanctify.
sanctify God's name. The biblically source of the commandments is God's statement, sanctify me, administrate the Jewish people.
Okay, yefeh. What does sanctify mean? What does that word mean? What does sanctify mean?
To glorify his name.
Sort of. It is a way of glorifying his name. The word sanctify in Hebrew, it's the kadesh. That's where we get words like chidush, kedusha, kadish. They're all different ways of saying sanctify.
Holy, sacred.
Good. So what does holy mean? What does sacred mean? What does that mean?
Set apart.
Yes. We're saying this is something special. It's something different. Most of the time, we mean it's something different in a good way. The English word sanction comes from the same word as sanctify, but usually sanction in English has a negative connotation. We are saying that we're treating this person or this country differently. We recognize it as different, but normally in English, this word is negative. We're treating it differently because it's doing something we don't like. So we're not going to do business with that country. We're going to sanction it. Like the US was sanctioning the country of Iran because they funded a lot of terrorism. So we treat it differently. But you can also sanction in a good way. And in English, to sanction in a good way is sanctify. And the way we sanctify God is by recognizing that God is different. God is special. And how are we supposed to sanctify God in the world? That's what this mitzvah is. How do we make God different in the world? God does not change because he created time. He's above time. We can't change God. So how can we make God different? He's already different. If I don't do anything, if I never worship God, he's still just as different as he already was. So how do we sanctify him? How do we make him different? When we say make God holy, he's already holy. So how do we do that? What it means is we make God holy, we make God different in people's perception of God, in the way that people realize God. So if we say that God has an image just like everyone else, then we're doing the opposite of sanctifying him. We're doing the opposite of proclaiming that God is different. We're saying that God is the same. God looks like you and me. God looks like a monkey or an elephant, or God looks like a statue of Zeus, which just looks like a statue of any other man in Rome, in ancient Greece. That is the opposite of sanctifying God. So to sanctify God is to say, not that we are actually changing God. If we imagine that we can actually change God, then we're not sanctifying him, because we're saying that God changes just like anything else can change. The way we sanctify God, the way we say that God is holy, is by teaching the world that God is different. It's by changing the world's perception, elevating, lifting up people's understanding of God. So when we were children, we thought that God had a body. But as we learned more, as our eyes opened and we used our brains more, we recognized, no, God is not a body like some created thing. God is so great that no image can truly represent his greatness. No image can contain how great he actually is. This is to sanctify God. That's what it means to make God different. It doesn't make God different as he actually is, because he's already different. We are making God different in the minds of other people. And how do we do this? Can someone please read this paragraph? How do we make God different? How do we sanctify God?
Shall I read?
Bevakasha, please.
This mitzvah requires us to publicize the true religion to the masses. This must be done without fear of retribution, to the extent that even if a powerful tyrant tries to force us to deny, tyrant tries to force us to deny God, exalted be he, we may not obey him. He must rather unquestioningly submit to death, not even allowing him to talk, to think that we have denied God, exalted be he, by outwardly denying him, even if we still maintain belief in him in our hearts.
Right, תודה רבה. תזכו למצוות.
תזכו לעשות.
תודה רבה. Okay, so in this mitzvah of sanctifying God, the epitome, the highest way of sanctifying God is, what is the greatest proof that we can give to people of our understanding that God is truly different? How do we understand that God is true? What is the greatest way we can do that? If I just tell someone God is different, but then they tell me, I'm going to kill you unless you worship this statue, then even if we in our hearts still believe that God is truly different, truly sanctified, even if we believe this in our heart, but we have not sanctified God in the minds of others, we have not sanctified God in the world. What is the highest way we can do that? If we are threatened with death, and yet we still, with our lives, b'nafshecha, b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your nefesh. B'chol nafshecha. Nefesh is your life. If you are willing to give up your life rather than deny that God is different, then you have sanctified God to the fullest extent possible with your whole life. And if we do not give up our life, if we are forced to at death, then we have not sanctified God. We have not said God is different. If you are going to bow to a statue, even if someone says, you don't do this, I'm going to kill you. If you bow to that statue, even though in your heart you know that God is different, but God is different even if we don't know it. The sanctification that we're commanded to do is sanctifying God in the minds of others, helping them know that God is different. So if we give up our life rather than bow down to a statue, then we have sanctified God with all of our lives. Hopefully that would never happen to us. But if it does happen to us, that is the greatest mitzvah that one could do with their life. Other than living, in a holy and compassionate way, that also sanctifies God. But that's sanctifying God while you are living. You're giving your life in more than one way. You can give your life living, and you also literally give your life. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
This is the mitzvah of sanctifying God's name, in which all Jews are obligated. This means that allow ourselves to be killed by a tyrant for love of God, exalted be he, and belief in his oneness. This is similar to the actions of Shania, Mishael, and
Hananya.
Azra. In the days of the wicked Nebuchadnezzar, who forced people to bow down to a statue, and everyone, including Jews, bow down. There are nobody there to sanctify God's name, and this was a tremendous shame to the Jewish people. Everyone did not fulfill this mitzvah, and there was nobody to fulfill it. Everyone was afraid.
Okay. Now, again, like we said, God does not need us to sanctify his name in this world in order for God to be holy. He's already holy. Excuse me. But if we do not sanctify God's name in this world, although God is already holy, he is not holy in their minds, in their understanding. So in this situation, it is the highest way to prove to people, to the best of our ability, that God is truly one. We are so certain that he is one. We are so certain that God is different from all of creation that we're willing to give up our life for it. Excuse me. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
This commandment is obligatory only in such an awesome setting when all inhabitants of the world were terrified, and it was then necessary to spread and announce his unity.
Sorry, I muted myself. So,
Yeah.
daraba. So as it says here in the notes provided by Chabad, you can learn more about the details of this mitzvah in the laws of the foundations of the Torah, Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah. It's the first book of the Mishneh Torah, chapter 5, third halakha. So that's when it's considered that it's obligatory. In general, serving idolatry is serving false gods. It's one of the three sins that we are supposed to be willing to give our life up rather than to do that transgression. However, if you look in this law, in Hilchot Yesodei Torah, we will find that although this is the proper thing to do, and that's what we should do, if someone serves idolatry out of force, someone forced them to do it, they put a gun to your head or a knife to your throat, and they say, if you do not bow to this statue, I will kill you. Although the proper thing to do, and it is a mitzvah if you do it, you give up your life rather than worship that statue. If you did not give up your life, if you did bow down to that statue because someone was forcing you to, on pain of death, the halakha is that you are not liable. That means you will not be punished for it. You should not bow down to the idol. But if you did because someone forced you to, you are exempt from the punishment. The only time you are punished for idolatry, for bowing down to an idol, is if you did so voluntarily. But with all of the mitzvot, all of the commandments, anytime someone forces you to do something, especially threatening to kill you, you are always going to be exempt from the punishment. God is merciful. Even when we don't deserve his mercy, God is merciful. And the death penalty, for example, it's only ever given when a person high-handedly did the sin. They knew it was a sin, and they voluntarily did it anyway, even though they were warned more than once not to. That's how merciful God is. Even when he tells us to sanctify him, even then when we don't do it, he still has mercy on us. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
But God had already promised through his prophet Isaiah that the Jewish people would not be completely disgraced on that difficult occasion, and that a few young men would be present who would not be afraid of death and would give up their lives and publicize faith in God, sanctifying God's name in public as we have been commanded through Moses. This promise is in the verse. Now Jacob will not be afraid, nor will his face turn white, for he will see in his midst his children, the work of my hands. They will sanctify my name, the Holy One of Jacob, and strengthen the gods of Israel, God of Israel.
Kula mitzvot.
Tiskula Asod.
Laraba. Okay, so we've had a long class today. I think we can continue this next week. Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help. I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Alecha wa kol Yisrael. We are going to finish with the prayer that we say when we finish studying. And you guys should always do this also if you are able, when you study together on Shabbat or any other time that you're studying together as a group. You can say this prayer. If you don't have it with you whenever you're studying, you can say something similar in your own words. All right, so everybody repeat after me. Modeh ani lefanecha. Modeh ani lefanecha.
Modeh ani lefanecha.
I am grateful before you. Adonai Elohai. Adonai Elohai.
Adonai Elohai.
O eternal, my God. شَسَمْتَ حلقي شَسَمْتَ حلقي
Se Shampa Elki.
شَسَمْتَ حلقي. Okay, I will try to stay focused, but who can tell me what is this right here?
You.
Yes. Past tense or future tense? Which one?
Past tense.
Kol hakavod. So you might not know what this word means, but you know that it's a verb. You know it's an action because ta. Ta is telling you that this is an action that happened in the past. And as one of our sisters correctly pointed out, she is a very common prefix. She, samta, halqi. That you placed. That you placed. My portion. She, samta, halqi. I'm grateful before you, O Eternal, my God, that you placed my portion, my part in this world. Mi yosheve beth ha-midrash. Everybody say, Mi yosheve
Me.
Mi Yosheve
beth ha-midrash.
Beit HaMidrash.
Mi yosheve, among those who dwell in the house of study. Welo samta halqi. Welo samta halqi.
Velo Samta Helki.
And you have not placed my portion. Mi yosheve karaneth. Mi yosheve karaneth.
Mi Yosheve Veronoth.
And you have not placed my portion among those who dwell on street corners, those who just hang out all day on the side of the road. She'ani mashkim. She'ani mashkim.
She'ani Mashkim.
That I get up early, that I rise up early. Wehem mashkimim. Wehem mashkimim.
Ehem Mashkimim.
And they, wehem, and they mashkimim, and they also get up early. Ani mashkim ledivre Torah. Ani mashkim ledivre Torah.
Ani Mashkim Ledore Torah.
Ani mashkim ledivre Torah. I get up early. Ani mashkim ledivre, to the words of Torah. I get up early to the words of Torah. Wehem mashkimim. Wehem mashkimim.
Vehem Mashkimim.
And they get up early. Lidvarim batalim. Lidvarim batalim.
Lid Warim Warim.
And they get up early to matters, to things batalim, that are empty. Lidvarim batalim. Those who dwell on street corners, they get up to empty things. Things that don't have much meaning. Ani amel. Ani amel.
Ani Amel.
I work hard. I toil. I work hard. Wehem amelim. Wehem,
Vehem Amelim.
and they work hard. Those who dwell on the street corners, they can also work hard. Ani amel qabbel sahar. Ani amel qabbel sahar.
Ani Amel Maqbel Sohor.
Ani amel qabbel sahar.
Ani Amma. Ani
I work hard. Ani amel. I work hard. Qabbel, and receive sahar, reward. Sahar. Wahem amelim, and they work hard. Wahem amelim.
Vehem Amalim.
Wa'en meqabbalim sahar.
Em Maqbalim Sohor.
وإن, and they do not, وإن, and they do not مقبلين, they do not receive سخار, reward. أني روس, أني روس,
Ani roh.
Ani Ros.
I run, أني روس.
Ani roh.
وهم روسين, وهم روسين,
Hem
Rohlin.
Rosim.
and they run. I run and they run. أني روس لا حيي هعلام هبا. أني روس لا حيي هعلام هبا.
Ani
Ani
roh.
Ros. Le Haye Ha Olam Haba.
Beautiful. كل הכבוד. أني روس لا حيي هعلام هبا. I run to the life of the everlasting world to come. I run to the life of the world to come. أني روس لحيي هعلم هبا. وهم روسين, وهم روسين ليفئر
Rahim
شاحث.
rohlin.
وهم روسين ليفئر شاحث.
Hem Rosim. Le
ليفئر شاحث.
Her
There
Shahor.
And they run to a pit, a big hole in the ground. They run to a pit. Shahath, of destruction. Shahath. Yehi roson min lefonecha, Adonai Elohai. May it be your will before you, O eternal our God, that as you have drawn us up from the pit of destruction and lies, and brought us to your Torah of truth and to a healthy mind, may we also draw up others, fulfilling your miswah, your commandment that we walk in your ways, just as you lifted us up out of that pit of destruction with your word of truth and wisdom. May we walk in your ways by lifting up others as well, being your agents in this world, bringing them up out of the pit of destruction with your words of Torah and wisdom. Lama'an shemecha, for the sake of your name, l'qaddesh shemecha, to sanctify your name. Ken yehi roson, so may it be your will. Weimru, and everybody said,
Amen.
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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat.
shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
shalom.